Welcome to this month's How-To. I'm Cico Rodriguez, and we're going to talk today about how to manage all those crazy projects. You know, in the ingredient world, the number one issue I hear sales reps talk about is their productivity. And they often start discussing their email. They say there's just too many emails coming in, too many things to respond to, and they really struggle with dealing with everything that's coming at them. And while email is very important to manage, and we're definitely going to discuss that here at Ingredient Sales University, it's not the priority. What's really the priority is identifying the purpose of all of those emails. Oftentimes, what causes distraction for ingredient sales reps is the concept that a new email has come in and you need to pay attention to it. The reality is, though, what you're working on right now is probably a project that used to be that email. And so we want to go through exactly how to create effective project management so that you can manage every project coming at you. And what I find is, while most sales reps are hitting a bottleneck around 15 to 20 projects that they can handle, once taking this course, you're going to feel like you can handle 2 or 3 times that many, or even more. Some sales reps have even reported that they can handle as many as 150 projects, and before they were barely handling 15. We want to get started, and I want to make sure that you have everything that you need to handle projects effectively. It really starts around asking the specific questions around project management. So here we go. The first question you want to ask yourself is, where are you managing your projects? I find that a lot of ingredient sales reps are typically trying to hold everything in a place that doesn't really work for them. A couple of examples. Some ingredient sales reps hold all their projects in their head. You know, it's interesting, the mind can only handle so many items at one time. Really, it can only focus attention on one thing at a time, but phone numbers are 7 digits long, so they estimate you can probably handle about 7 things at one time in your head. Too much above that, it's really starting to get challenging. And when you look at projects, there are multi-steps, multi-layers, and a lot of activities. Handling projects in your head is going to hurt your head, but it's also going to hurt your progress. What about on paper or a notebook? You know, I'm not against the old way of handling activities in business, but there's so many opportunities in technology that we can really make some momentum on. I would try and make a purpose to move your projects from your paper to an electronic system so that you can really build momentum on how you're managing those projects. Inboxes. We think that sometimes the folders inside of our inboxes are to hold project activities, and that's just not the way that our mind works. Imagine yourself going to your mailbox and checking your mail, and then when you see something you have to do, leaving all of your mail there and going to get the things that you need to respond to that bill or send a message to your aunt or cousin. It would be ridiculous. So our inbox is really not a place to manage our projects very effectively. It handles communication well, but it's not the place to manage your projects. Another place that I hear sales reps talk about often is using Excel. Excel has some cool features, but it's not the easiest place to make updates and to communicate with the rest of the team or to hold material that you want to send to your client when the time comes. We're going to talk about templates at the end. Excel is not made for handling the solutions that we're going to talk about, and so I would recommend moving away from Excel. The last place that many people manage their projects is their calendar. And while calendars can handle certain activities and maybe give you some space and time to move the project forward, it's not the place to manage the project. Some sales reps have been successful, and as I mentioned, they can handle between 10 and 20 projects inside of their calendar. But in order to move things a lot faster, a lot better, and really build momentum, we're going to give you a couple of tools that'll help build your system more effectively. But before we do, we got to ask the question. The second question is, what are kind of the essentials to making a great project management system? I got a few in here that I want to make sure we cover. Number one is you want to make sure that you can update and access it easily and in an understandable way. You know, there's kind of a 2-minute rule that I would give to updating and managing your projects. If you have to take more than 2 minutes to access all of your projects, updating one project, moving another project date, then you're probably taking too long. You probably have an ineffective system to be able to really be successful at managing projects. So make sure that they're easily accessible, easily updatable, and it's an understandable path to do both of those things. Ideally, your projects need to be categorized. So that's the kind of second area of a great project management system. You want to categorize them through maybe a tagging system or even just a categorization model like you have in Outlook tasks. The purpose of those is really to group your projects together. It really allows for you to build momentum because the reality is a lot of the successful projects overlap, and you'll be able to borrow and leverage your successful projects for the projects that are just getting started, and you can build a lot of momentum from those previous projects. Now, one of the great things that a project management system will have is the ability to handle deadlines, also handle documents, and other important pieces of information for you to update that's necessary about this project. You know, documents and deadlines get pushed off into all sorts of places. Your calendar will handle your deadlines, your documents are in all of your different file folders. But if your project management tool can hold those things in one place, you're going to feel a lot more confident when you go into that next client meeting. Maybe you're talking to multiple team members, and you'll be able to take that information from that meeting, put it in a single place, update your deadline, take all your documents that you need, and have them ready for when your clients are ready for them. The last thing is that I would recommend is that it be collaborative. Now, this isn't always possible, so I'm not going to belabor this point, but if you can collaborate with your team where they can access your projects with you, that gives them the opportunity to see where they can jump in and where they need to update you on changes they've made to either products, ingredient solutions that you provided, testing that they've done, and things to support your clients that they're doing as your internal team. There is just one overall arching concept that I want to make sure that you understand around project management, around this area of your system and how it works. And really, it should give you a ton of clarity. When we coach clients specifically on designing their system, they consistently come back to us and say, I feel like everything is clear. We can see clearly for the foreseeable future, usually 90 days out, but even as far as 9 to 12 months, they know what projects they're working on. They can see them all visibly in one place, and it makes them feel very safe, comfortable, and clear. So your system should include all of those things, and if you get the feeling of clarity when you're using it, that's just fantastic. I'm going to focus on, because so many sales reps use Outlook, others are using Lotus Notes, some use Gmail, I'm going to focus most of my attention on Outlook. However, please get in touch with me and my team if you're using a different system, and we'll see if we can help you work through that. I'm going to give a few recommendations for alternative systems to Outlook, and hopefully that'll help you build your project management tool. Creating one place for all of your material, that's number 3. Let's get one place for all your material. That's your third component to having a good project management system, and I'm going to start with Outlook. With Outlook, one of the first things that I would recommend that you do is to define the different categories of your projects. Now, I like to give people 2 minimum categories for all their projects. The first category is really looking at a list of customers. You should have a category name for every one of your customers. So that way, if you have a customer that's working on multiple ingredient solutions for their business, you know exactly where they are on every one of those solutions. The second one is your ingredient solutions. Now, if you were like me, when I was at Danisco and DuPont, we had over 6,500 ingredients. Now, my attention was on a few of those, less than 50. But in order for me to be effective, categorizing them in a little bit broader way was important. If you handle a lot of ingredients, you'll want to think about ingredient categories that your business falls under. For example, I handled probiotics, sweeteners, and a few other types of ingredients, so I had broader categories inside of my project management system. Now, a couple of other recommendations that I have for sales reps under categories is focusing on the top 80% of your revenue for that quarter, meaning which accounts are going to give you the most revenue for that quarter. We're not going to discuss calculating those because we'll do that in another video when we talk about managing your quarters. But if you have a category for your top 80% and you update that every quarter, that'll give you great visibility on which projects you need to give the most attention to. The other ones you'll definitely give attention to, but you always want to have front of mind, what are your highest priorities for this 90 days? So those are the categorizations in Outlook. The second thing I really like about Outlook is the ability to create project templates. We're going to do a deep dive in project templates, and then you're going to watch a video at the end of me showing you how to make a project in Outlook and what it looks like. But that capability of making a template is going to dramatically improve your ability to take on a new project and move it forward faster than you imagined. What about some other systems? I'm going to give you two that are ones that I've seen in use from sales reps in the industry and that I've used myself on one of these. Asana has all the capabilities that I just talked about, easily updatable, gives you a targeted timeline, has tagging capabilities, great for categorizations. Asana.com, A-S-A-N-A, will have a link for that as well. Pipedrive gives you a more visible approach to your business, so you really want to be clear about your different stages of product development that customers use, but it's a great tool for managing a lot of projects. One client that we've worked with manages about 150 projects using Pipedrive. Now, let's build the fourth point right now, and that's all around, do you have a project template? Every project you get is going to follow a typical sequence. Yes, you'll have different relationships that you're going to be talking to. Yes, you're going to have different places where projects start, but the type of documents you're going to need are going to be very close to the same. The type of communication, the questions that customers ask are going to be consistently the same. And you want to be able to build a template. So here's a template that I give every ingredient sales rep when we're building a project. The first thing is you need a project name. I highly recommend the project name match the product that your customers are making. You know, I worked at Garden of Life and we had a product name. If I could use my product name with my ingredient sales reps that were selling ingredients, it dramatically improved our communication if they were using the same name. It's fantastic. The second thing that's really important for you is to understand the estimated dollars that it's going to bring in for your business. You know, paying attention to the wrong types of projects and misprioritizing is a struggle for most ingredient sales reps. And the way that you overcome that is just knowing what the dollar value is on a regular basis right in front of you. If the customer hasn't given it to you, try to get some estimates around things that they've either done before or things that you've done with them in the past that were successful. The next thing on the project template is the specific next action. What I find is that sales reps love to plan, love to build a detailed plan that is challenging to execute. So the most important thing that you create for yourself to be successful is identifying that very next action. When you can see the next action, you can really build momentum on 20, 30, 60, or even 100 projects really efficiently because you know exactly what to do next. Updating that next action gives you a lot of momentum in that project. Then is the estimated completion deadline. We've talked about that already. These two areas now that we're going to cover next for the project template are vital. All of the contacts inside of a brand or manufacturer that you're working with are essential to have if you know they're going to be working with you in the project. It's also important to know which team members on your team are going to be important to make that project successful. Relationships drive projects faster than systems any day of the week. So having a list of relationships ready and available so that communication happens fluidly, happens quickly, with the right information so decisions can be made is essential. I put those relationships right into my project so that it's clearly visible for me who I need to contact at every stage of a launch or a new formula or an updated formulation. The next thing is looking at the list of all the tasks that need to be done with that project. Now, we discussed the importance of having the next action, but if you can, making a list of all of the tasks that you know are going to need to be done, even if you don't have the exact dates, is going to really help you so you don't have to recreate a project map, a project list of activities. When you have those tasks in place, you actually prepare almost a template for your future projects with that same customer. And the last thing is that you want to make sure that you have in place is what are the customer's target deadlines. So before you had your target deadlines for some of these things, you want to also be clear what are the customer's target deadlines. Because if they're faster than yours and not aligned, you want to make sure that you get those aligned as quickly as possible. Now, the last thing for having a great project management system is the ability to debrief your successful projects and the ones that weren't successful. So, debriefing future opportunities. And the keys for that, there are 5 simple keys to debriefing. It's looking at the successes, identifying the setbacks, what's the most important lesson that you can extract from this project that just happened, any comments from team members, your team and their team, that you can get into this debrief is huge. And then the last question that I would ask yourself is, would you do it again? Every project, you should know whether it was worth it. I know of one ingredient sales rep that said a certain customer wasn't big enough for him to really pay attention to. That's really important to know. It sounds a little bit offensive, but because he's gone through a number of projects with them, he realized that that customer should probably be managed by an inside sales rep rather than him, an outside sales rep. So that is the overview of how to manage projects really, really well. You're going to see a video in just a few moments that's going to walk you through step by step on how to make this in Outlook, and I look forward to getting your feedback on how your successful projects are. Send us some messages on what successes you've seen and what challenges you're facing. We look forward to seeing you next month on the How To.
I hope you enjoyed this month's how-to session at Ingredient Sales University, managing all those crazy projects. I want to give you a little bit of insight into the actual tactics of managing those crazy projects. And for most ingredient sales reps, that really begins here in Outlook. And so we are going to use Outlook to manage projects, and then we'll talk about a few other systems. If Outlook is not your current system for managing email, then we'll be able to look at some other ones that will help you along the way. So first, you'll notice my inbox is clear, which is fantastic. I personally do not use Outlook, but I have it available to train sales reps on. I use Gmail and a different project management system. However, if you do use Outlook, go down to your tasks. It might be on the left side for some of you if you have an older version, and click on tasks. And so you'll see here a list of tasks. Now, you'll remember that we're calling this projects, so I want to show you a few things that will really help you in establishing a project. And it begins with the project template. Every project has a few key components that you can answer, that you can address, and that you can have in place so that the project continues to build momentum, continues to see progress, connects with the right people, both in your company as well as with the customer or potentially third-party participants that might be a part of your strategy. For example, if you're talking to a brand and they have a contract manufacturer that they're working with, all of that can be managed inside of this project template. The very first thing you'll notice is that we establish a project name. Now, the project name ideally mimics the name that's in your CRM system. The reason we manage it here is because usually the CRM systems are a little bit bulky and challenging to utilize on a day-to-day basis. And you need to know what the next action is for you to take in order to really see success in the project. So the project name, very clear. Ideally also, besides just your CRM system, hopefully it's the name that the customer or your account has as their project name. And then, obviously, this is defined as an opportunity for you. So you want to get an estimate of how much is it worth to you, to your business. And finally, here at the top, you want the very next action step. Oftentimes, inside of a project, there are so many multiple actions that it's very difficult to know what's the very next action. The very next action that you personally can take, even if it's waiting on somebody else, if that's your next action, that can go right in this spot. Now, obviously, you can have start dates, you can have end dates that are valuable. Because of the way that Outlook works, you probably are going to constantly adjust due dates based on that next action. So you'll want to have a bigger picture of the project of when it's actually going to be completed by just including that in the timeline under your list of actions over here. And so we'll go ahead and put that for the end of October of this year. Start date can be today. And the next component that I want to address is really around contacts. So if you know anything about Ingredient Sales University, we like to say that your skills help build relationships, and relationships, both internally inside your own team and externally, help you identify new opportunities or projects. And so your list of contacts are very important for the particular project. Maybe you're talking to R&D, regulatory, marketing, and accounting at the brand or at the manufacturer. Purchasing obviously would be in there for manufacturers since you're ingredient sales reps. And so having those lists of contacts with their contact information helps you quickly identify who you need to talk to and when. Instead of being reactive in your email, you can be proactive in your project. So once you have the list of contacts, the next thing you want to consider is your list of actions. Now, I put a list of kind of documents and ideas, and those lists of documents and ideas that are in here are part of the actions that you provide to the customer. The other things that you want to include are the customer's list of actions that they have inside of their own processes. So in general, they might have an ideation phase. If they're still in that idea phase, there are a number of action items that they're going through. If they're in the formulation phase, there are a few things that they need from you and actions that they're taking. And so you want to participate in their actions and identify what are the actions that need to be done for the project. The next thing I have is, besides a project template that you can build off of and use for this same customer over and over and over again, is a list of kind of ad hoc actions. And I say spend 5 minutes putting this together. I especially recommend you do this at the very beginning of the project, because in those first 5 minutes, your mind is very clear on what is needed by each team member, by the different parties that are involved, if there are a manufacturer and a brand, and there are requests that have already been given initially, so that you know these are some of the ad hoc items that are needed in the project to be able to work. And the last thing I want you to see here is that your documents and even your emails can be moved into this project folder. As you can see, I can move around this email anywhere inside of this task tool that we're using as a project, that anywhere it needs to go. And so your documents can drop into here, your email communications can drop into here. It's a fantastic tool, and it's worked really well for me when I was in ingredient sales, and it's worked very well for others who are in the ingredient sales world as well. Now, there is another component that we're going to talk about on the overall project management, and we'll show that here just briefly. The categories that are part of your project are very helpful, and they include two major components and the third that might be helpful. The first major category is the customer name. So you'll see here customer names that I've included. A lot of them are brands, and those customer names can be put into this project, and they'll go inside of the category. The second type of category is the list of ingredient solutions that you may have as a potential solution. So I'll give you some examples of solutions that I've used in the past. And so you'll see that those will pull up along with the customer, and you will get to be able to sort your projects by ingredient solution or customer, which are two very valuable pieces. Now, those are the top two categories that I recommend. There's a third category that you won't understand fully until we get to preparing our quarter, which we'll be talking about in January of 2017. If you're joining us before that, you're going to be excited to see how to prepare our quarter. But it is identifying your top 80% customers. So which customers are actually responsible for handling your top 80%. So very simply, I just put in here, you can have a color or no color, and I just simply put in here top 80%, and that box is checked. And so then it lets me know that this is one of my top 80% customers. So you can go into categories inside of the individual task, or you can do that in a bigger area that we're going to show you in a moment. So this task is now ready to save and close. Now, the things that you want to pay attention to, as you'll notice here, we have our categories. Bear has two projects. We have our project template, which I use as a Bear project, and then a how are you or how are project is a branded ingredient concept, and so that can be a part of it. You'll see a few other categories in here as well. Our top 80% down here at the bottom. You can sort these however you like, based on due date, based on start date, based on categories or subject. It's very helpful to organize these and plan for these so that you are on top of all of your projects very effectively. So let's just show you how to set one of these up. So we're going to go to a task. We're going to call this new ingredient launch. We'll just call it wheatgrass launch, just so we're talking about ingredients. Product. This is going to be worth over $100,000 in sales for our business. And then our next action is supply the customer, supply with documentation below. Those contacts. We have Bill, Julie, Alan, Stacy. And those are our internal and external contacts. Obviously, you would put their phone numbers and their email addresses ideally. And then we have our template, our project template. So I'm going to go back to our original template and pull that information from here. Now we have the ad hoc items, tasks. We can just do tasks, ad hoc. And these will be individual ones that I'm aware of. So regulatory review science, R&D to receive, so we'll do send R&D clinical studies and list of potential claims. Provide marketing with non-science claims and ingredient story. Send quality testing methodologies. And you get the idea. And we want to categorize this. This is with one of our customers who is in our top 80%. And they are dealing with one of our ingredient solutions that we'll just call forfeit again. And the start date is today. And we want to get it done by the 28th. And so you see, be very clear on what you want. Update your next action as frequently as you can, as frequently as there's engagement and contact. And you are going to have a very successful project management tool using Outlook. So just briefly, there are a few other project management tools that I would recommend. And they are Asana. It's a project management tool that lets you manage tasks and projects together. And then probably the most used one that I've seen sales reps be really successful with, managing over 120 projects, is a system called Pipedrive. So Pipedrive is a really great system, and we'll be happy to provide you information on Asana and Pipedrive if you are not able to leverage Outlook because you don't use it in your email. Thank you so much for joining this month in our how-to course at Ingredient Sales University, and I look forward to connecting with you soon.